Hey, I tell you what, this is Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine, and we're episode 30, and we're trying something new. We're trying something new mainly because of this. Last week, I popped up this app. It's called Wisdom, right? And I didn't know anything about it, but I guess it's like a live streaming audio app. So we kind of connected that to our recorded podcast just to see what would happen if we went live. And guess what happened? Super weird. We had like 38 listeners, right there, which is one of the most we've ever had. And over the last week, we've had 100 people follow our account. So that's amazing. So what Blaine's trying to do now, he's trying to log in from his side, ask guests to join. I need to press that. So I'm asking guests to join. But I think, Blaine, you got to be on Wisdom. You've got to go out there and you've got to find our live podcast and I guess join, right? You just join it and let's see, bring in listeners. So share your talk. So there we go. Now I'm sharing it. We're live. We got two. Is that you?
You should see my pending request here.
Okay, two guests are waiting. So, Jason's in too. So I don't know how this is going to work. We don't know anything about this and how to work it. But here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why you have to be the perfect pitch man in your company, right? So when you're the new guy, you're the new CEO, you're starting it up, you've got to be the perfect pitch man. And we're not talking about just selling your services and selling your wares. We're talking about being also the perfect CEO. If you're trying to raise money, talk to the bank, talk to, community leaders, you have to have the perfect pitch. So Blaine, I think you're on. It seems like we're on. Jason's there too, because I can see now. This is kind of interesting. But yeah, let's. What do you want to do?
Well, let's hope for the best. Like guys, last week, what we did find, we managed to stream live, but my mic wasn't picking up. Like when we record it, if you go to like one of our like Spotify or something, we're going to sound really good. When we streamed it, it didn't quite work. So now we're trying. I don't know. It's coming through my phone for Wisdom and through a mic for the recording. So hopefully this sounds good. We'll find out after. But let's kick it off. We'll figure it out later and see if it sounds right.
All right. So what are you drinking today? Right. We got to start there. So if you're new to the show, you haven't seen it, this is about business, beers, and bullshit, right? That's kind of what we do. Business, beers, and bullshit. We got, if you want to know more about us, we got a website, mikeandblaine.com. It's that simple. You can buy us a beer or whatever, but we always start off every show by introducing you to a new beer that we kind of ran into. So Blaine, there we go.
So this one, and this is actually from Arizona. I wanted to grab one from Arizona this time. It's from Grand Canyon Brewing Company, and I looked it up. I like these guys. It's a veteran owned. It's up in Williams, Arizona. That's I've never been there, but it looks like it's just kind of west of Flagstaff. So I kind of know where it would be, up by the Grand Canyon, and it's the Sunset Amber Ale. And I don't usually do amber ales, but I will say I should have done a beer run, because when I opened the fridge, it was either a bunch of beer like breweries have already done, or like 15%. And you know what happens when that happens, when I have one of those and then try and talk. So I went for, here we go, amber ale. So that's what I got going today from Grand Canyon.
All right, so that's what's funny about it, right? Is that it's getting harder and harder. Now we're at episode 30, so there's 60 different beers that we've already talked about. Yep. And it's getting harder and harder to walk into a store and go, oh yeah, we already did those. We already did that one. So I actually usually do a Texas beer, something real local here in San Antonio, or something that people might know about. I didn't do that this time. Right. I went up to Michigan. I didn't go up to Michigan, but I went to Michigan and got one from Bell's, because I fell in love with Bell's a long time. I know you know that from Edmonton, but I fell in love with Bell's Two Hearted Ale a long time ago when I owned Bottoms Up Brew House right there in St. Louis. And that was one of the beers we always had on tap. You could always count on the Bell's being there. But I ran across, I hadn't seen this one before. It's called their official Hazy IPA. You know me, I always do kind of a pale ale or an Indian pale ale. I like those heavy, just really thick, really thick beers. So we're gonna do Bell's official IPA today.
I'm gonna have to try that one. I'm just gonna write it down, because I'm gonna find that one. Bell's official IPA, because I'm the same as you. I like the really heavy you know, really nice, heavy, of course, like a barrel aged stout or an IPA like that. So, so I'm going light today. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. So, I'm glad you didn't choose the 15%er, because when you did that 11%, you got a little slurry near the end of the talk here.
I was all over the place and I didn't realize till after, but and you know what? I actually have a 17 in the fridge and I looked at it too. And I'm like, yeah, there's just zero chance. So I'll do a beer run this week because I got lots of great beer, but then I start looking at the bottle and going, nope, nope, nope. So we'll go with this today.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you go to mikeandblaine.com, I tell you, there's a button. First of all, you can see all the beers we feature. You can just see all of them that we've done. It's just kind of a streaming row of them that goes by. Right underneath that, about 3/4 of the way down the page, there's a buy us a beer. So if you want us to do something, you want us to try a beer, you want us to get something, on this show, it's $5, right? So it's not like we're breaking your bank. But here's the thing: nobody's done it, right? We've had 0 people buy a beer.
I know. It's getting a little old. Somebody better buy us one soon here. So we have nine people listening, it looks like. So there's a 1 out of 9 chance that someone's
this wisdom thing is pretty good. So yeah. All right, so let's do this. Perfect pitch man. Now what's interesting, right? So when you start your business, I mean, you've got to sell everybody on the idea. You've got to sell your wife, your spouse, or your whoever is in your life. You got to sell them on the idea, your friends. I mean, so how do you get there? I mean, how do you get it when you can generate a new idea before you start your business? What do you do?
Yeah, it's when I started my business, I had to learn that, but you learn it really quick that you need allies. And so we're talking like exactly like you said, like, your wife, your family, you got to pitch them, your friends, you want them in your court, but suddenly you're talking with bankers. And trust me, it's not just what's on paper. You got to pitch them. They have to believe in you. And as you grow the company, especially as they're trying to do like get business in, you're doing sales, you got to pitch that company. You got to pitch yourself. They have to believe in you. And you know how that goes too. Like today, I'm like, dry run tech company. I've done a ton of pitches and it's all elevated because now you're talking with investors, you're pitching all the time. So it's not just when you say pitch, it's not just that one time when you're on stage and you're doing the investor thing. It's almost every waking moment. You have to be ready to do that.
Well, and I think that's what you're doing early on, right? So I mean, again, when I first started a hotel staffing company, super niche. I mean, it's one of those companies that you just don't see because if you're not in that little industry, in the hotel business industry, you're not going to be looking for that company. Yeah. But when I came up with the idea, I mean, it was based on a hybrid model of a temporary staffing company and a full-time, employee, right? So I built this hybrid model where we would put, and I called it the accordion part of your staff, because sometimes hotels have 100% occupancy, sometimes they got 20% occupancy, right? So it's hard for them to maintain full-time employees for both, sets of vacancies, because sometimes you need people, sometimes you don't. That makes retention super hard when you can't give people hours. Yeah. So they have to use these companies to kind of offset it. Well, when I saw that need, I mean, that was where I dug in. I'm like, okay, there's the niche. I can be the premier hotel staffing. That's all we do. We only know you. I know heart of the house positions, and I didn't try to get fancy. I didn't try to go what I call face of the company, which is like the front desk, the management, those type of things. It's heart of the house, people that are working behind the scenes to give you a great experience. Well, I feel like it kind of rolls off the tongue now. Mm-hmm. But man, when I first came up with the idea, you know how long it took just to craft a 3-minute introduction to what we're trying to do?
It's so hard. And being concise with a pitch, with your messaging is incredibly difficult. And, going back to my agency days, like really wrapping our head around how we would pitch our company, how we would pitch our services was tough enough. But today it's just incredibly important to be able to pitch. And
here's what I tried to do. I tried to tell everybody I came across, my friends, family. I mean, people that I knew, just they didn't care about it. But if I talked about it, the more often I said it, the more often it became natural.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it is you have to practice, and it's okay to practice on your friends and family, you know, and just conversation. I wouldn't say, hey, let me practice my pitch on you, because if you do that to me as a friend, Blaine, I'm like going, yeah, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't come off as natural or anything either. And like, I know all the times that when I first started the business, and you're learning all the time and you're getting better all the time. But I still remember the first time I pitched, a few years ago, pitched an investor for dry run. My very first one was an absolute train wreck. And to be honest, I think they actually invested in it. So it couldn't have been that bad. But from my point of view, it was awful. And now, like literally, someone could walk in the door right behind me and go, yeah, tell me about dry run. And I'd be like, here we go. And I got it. Like, it's autopilot now. And so practice makes perfect. Even if you don't feel like you're the perfect pitch manner, it's like, that is not in my comfort zone or whatever. You can get there. You build your story. You get to learn your story. You run it by people, and you just craft it, but you can get really good at it just from that practice.
All right. So here's a weird thing that I do, right? Again, when we start off with companies, or I'm consulting, some of the small businesses that I work with, I write 3 short descriptions, one with 25 words, one with 50 words, one with 100 words. Right. And the reason I do that is because I start to memorize the 25s and the 50s, because that's how you start to get attention. And then it morphs into the 100. And that's how I kind of train myself. But if you think about 25 or 50 words, you're really talking about a 30-second commercial, right? Or less, yeah. 15 to 30-second commercial. And what is it that you want somebody to know in that amount of time? And usually for me, it's, I hate it when, but here's how I fixed it. That's kind of the formula, right? I hate it when this happens, but here's what we're doing to fix it. And here's the things that I'm doing to make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if you do that right, it couples right in with, what I always call that pitch you have to give everybody when you go to a networking event. Yeah. Right? If you ever done there, everybody asks you, hey, Mike, what do you do? Right. And then you always got to come up with that. Well, I try to couple those so it seems similar. And my whole goal in that conversation is to make somebody ask, no shit, how you do that?
Yeah.
Right. Because you want them to start asking questions about what that is. So, and it's very simple. It's, I help this type of person with this type of problem by doing these things. Boom. That's my formula.
Yeah.
And you just repeat that. That's the pitch over and over and over again. So, do you use some tools like that?
Yeah. That's something I feel like I've never crafted that well is like they always say, the elevator pitch. I like your formula. I really do. Like the pitching I've been doing so much lately are to investors, and what I had the usual meetings, like 20 to 30 minutes or whatever. Right. I got my 5-minute story down. Like I've just could, anywhere, anytime. But the sort of cocktail party pitch is a little bit trickier for me. And I like your, this is the problem that I hate, and here's how we help. That's a great way to do it. Right.
Well, and the thing about that is that if you have an employee base, if you've got a team, they can memorize that. It seems pretty easy for them to be able to memorize that. So that way, no matter who's out in the public, you've got the same message. And people keep hearing it over and over and over again, because I've been with companies where one person thinks that they're doing one thing and another person thinks they're doing another. Right. And when that happens, the market gets confused really fast, especially if you've got the executive team talking different languages.
Yeah. And the famous, a confused mind never buys. That's, like we always have that in mind too. It's how do you keep a simple, clear message? But it's not just simple and clear. It's, going back how many years, I've always thought about what are you the best in the world at? And, at times you're like, well, I don't know. Like, I think we're quite good at this, but are we the best in the world? Now I'm like, this is what we do. this is how we're different. And it's always like, this is how we're different. You really want to focus on that, because you have to find the people that are going to love what you do, and you qualify out the ones that don't. And I think early on, even when you're pitching, you've seen it with businesses so often. It's like, what do you do? Here's a list. We do everything. Like, here is a laundry list of 7,000 things. There's got to be something on there you want to buy from us. That doesn't work. What works is, we do this, we do it awesome. And it's that niche that you talked about before. And you can broaden it out. Like, it's a proverbial, people go to McDonald's to buy a hamburger. Yeah, once they're in the door, you can sell them a fillet of fish, but they're known for their hamburger and fries. That's what they're known for, right? And I think that's what businesses need to do. You have to have that really clear, simple message.
Yeah. All right. So I totally agree with that. But let's talk about I think there's at least 4 different pitches you have to have. And here's what I mean by that. You've got one that you have to have for your employee base, right? Yes. And that's more, they have to buy into your vision. So the pitch is a little bit different. Yes. Then you've got, then you got your customers, right? Which is your value proposition and why you should buy from me. I deliver this at your promise, and why you should buy it from me. Then there's 2 others that people don't normally think about, even though they encounter them. One is the bank. You have to have a pitch for them. And then investors is a different one altogether.
Yeah.
Right. So what I was hoping we would do today is kind of go through each 4 of those.
Sure.
And talk about, okay, well, what's important for employees, what's important for customers, what's important for banks, what's important for investors.
Yeah, that's a good plan. So you planned this. I hadn't heard this before, so it's going to be off the cuff. But those are 4 great examples, and I can see each one how they're different.
We don't plan anything. I just made it up as well.
There we go. But those are 4 good categories. I get it. I buy into each one of those. So let's start. Do you want to start with the employees or the customers first?
Well, let's start with employees, right? Let's just take it right there in order. Let's start with employees. So again, I think, you have to pitch them, because if I'm me, and I am, because I saw myself put my shoes on, but I'm already bought in. I'm bought into the idea. And I think that every time I'm in the room, I'm there. I'm excited about it. My pitch to my employees is the big world-changing event. We're doing these things for this purpose, right? And I think that's how the Army gets by with, getting people to go defend weird hills and things like that. They're saying, you're doing it because you're part of a bigger, grander plan. So we do these things for this purpose. And that's how I try to motivate employees right off the bat and pitch to them. I mean, you got a different view?
No, I think I'm right on the same page with that. Like, when people talk about the mission and the vision, and it's as easy as an early business owner to dismiss that and sounds like for somebody else, but no, you need to focus on those things, because that is that big mission. That is how you engage your team. And I know it sounds like a little canned, but it's like, how are we going to change the world? And that it's going to change a little bit, it's going to change a lot, but how are you changing the world? Who are you helping? How is there a bigger vision? And I think that's really, really important to engage your staff, so that it's not just task, do this, do that, do this, do that. No, you do this because we want to get to here. We got to get over that next hill, and we want to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, people go to work for money, don't get me wrong, but they also want to believe that they're part of something. They're doing something bigger than, and I don't care if it's just the receptionist. And I don't say just as, but it's just, they want to feel like they're part of something bigger. That's why they wear the swag, right? They wear the hats, the shirts, they tell their friends, they put it on Facebook, because they want to be part of something bigger.
I think money is actually quite secondary for a lot of, I think when employees are all about the money is when it's a really awful situation, like an awful place to work. Then it's all about the money. There's always somebody else will pay you to do something. When I totally agree, when you have that mission and they're engaged and the whole team is, so they're all pulling in the same direction and they're excited about something. I think the money, like it's important, like, don't get me wrong, but I think it is secondary. Like I don't think you can keep staff and you can't keep them engaged and working at like top capacity and everything if it's all just about the buck. They have to buy into what you're doing.
Well, I kind of agree, right? I'm gonna give you a 50% on that one, right? Because I think that the only thing a real individual has to offer the world is he can sell his time or she can sell her time. That's it. And that's what
Yeah.
you do when you go to work for somebody else. If you're not in charge, you're not the boss. I'm selling you my time, and I should do that for the most I can get. Now, I also want to be able to be part of something bigger. But
Oh
I'm
yeah,
willing
but
to take
what I'm
less.
talking about is sort of all things being equal. Like you can go and cross the street and work for the competitor, right? But and maybe there even is a little bit of a bump on salary, but I think in the end, it's the work, it's the environment, it's the culture, it's the feeling like you're contributing. I think it carries a lot of weight. So that's what I'm not saying that it's like, no, you work for half price, but it's you have A and you have B. Um, there is more to it. It's like dollar in, dollar out. There's more to it than that for where you're going to work.
You know, the sentence that scares me when a prospective employee or talks to me, if they say they're looking for a good job, it scares me. You know why? Because my dad told me something when I was a kid. He
Yeah.
goes, Mike, you want to know what a good job is? I'm going, no, what is it? He says, GOOD, get out of debt. He goes, then you go find the job you want. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
and I
the
think
definition of a good job.
it feels a bit like the distinction sometimes how people would view a job versus a career. And I think to me, a career is that it's more, there's more to it. It's more aspirational. You think you're going to want to do it for a long time. I don't know if I'm just making that up. I didn't look up the definition of career, but no, but I think I agree with you. I don't think I'd want someone come in. Well, I'm looking for a good job, but I think the way you get them engaged, like, and the other thing too, is you have employees in two organizations getting paid the exact same amount. The culture and the mission, if they're engaged, I think they're going to be that much more effective and productive. And so it's almost like, yeah, they might be getting paid the same in each one, but they're going to be engaged. They're going to enjoy their job. But let's say me as a business owner, it's like, yeah, I'm getting 1.5 times what they would across the street because they're engaged and they believe in what we're doing and we're all pushing in that same direction.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we agree on the fact that you've got to talk to their heart somehow. You got to get their
Yeah.
heart into it. I can teach anything in the world. I can teach you how to do things. I can't teach you how to have a heart. I just can't. So that's your job as the CEO, as the owner of this company, is to give them a reason to put their heart in it.
Yeah. And also I think this is a little bit of a side note, but when you're hiring someone, you're pitching the company to them, but you want them to pitch you because you also need to know, I can't necessarily bring that to somebody else. I can paint the vision, the mission, everyone can be pulling the same direction, but you have to hire people that you believe will buy into that vision and that mission and really drive. And so you want them to pitch you too, to make sure that, yes, you're going to be the right fit for the business. Because as well as I do, every time you hire someone, it can be such a massive benefit, but there's also a risk because you're bringing someone in that can disrupt the culture and the balance of the company.
Oh, easy, easy. All right. So what about customers, right? Because this should be the easy one. I mean, you're pitching customers, and I think that's, again, we go back to, hey, I solved this problem by doing these things, right? And if you have this problem, you should like it.
Yeah, it feels to me like it is the easiest one. It's here's how we're going to bring value to you. Like this is our value to, this is how we're going to change your life. And this is how we're different than the competitors. So if you're picking A or B, I don't want you looking at price. You'll pay more for us because we're gonna bring way more to the table. And so I think that speaks to the pitch. I remember someone saying one time that the pricing has more to do with messaging than the product. And I thought it was a really interesting perspective, because if you're not communicating your value and how you're different, and if you just mix into the crowd, you're going to be, it's going to come down to price. Who's the cheapest? And you never want to be the cheapest.
No,
Least
but
expensive.
here's my thought on that, right? And it's and I forget who said it, but it's not my thought. I stole it from somebody else. It's product doesn't kill a company, distribution does, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
you can have an average product, but with great distribution, you can keep a company just thriving, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, you know me, I always like to have a tool, a methodology, a technique for doing things. To me, I keep marketing or messaging, my pitch, so to speak, into two elements. It's the value proposition and the competitive advantage. That's the technical stuff. The way I tell just the regular business owner when I'm consulting them is, what do you deliver? What's your promise to the customer? And why should they buy it from you? Really, that's value proposition and competitive advantage. But
Yeah.
it's, what are you doing? Why should I buy it from you? And that's all you have to tell people.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them all these specials and things like this. You just say, hey, listen, I have, the best computer. We'll take Apple computers, right? Apple computers, they've got beautifully designed computers, those type of things. But the promise they deliver is an experience and an introduction to a community, because you want to think differently. I want to think differently. I want the best. I think Apple has the best, so I buy into Apple as a community. Doesn't matter what they make, iPod to iPad, right? So it doesn't matter what they make. I buy into what they do. And then you couple that with the competitive advantage. You should buy it from me, because if you like the best, if you like beautifully designed products, you should buy it from me. You notice I didn't say price anywhere, because price doesn't matter. Price doesn't matter to me. And I have a whole exercise, in my Clear Path to Cash training seminars, where I prove to the group that price doesn't matter. So I just never worry about that.
Yeah, it's well, we're saying exactly the same thing. To me, it's the value. And when I say how we're different, it's competitive advantage. That's what we're talking about, how the good stuff about this is why we're different and why you want to buy from us. That's only messages you need. And if you do that right, price is secondary. And in fact, like, I go by the mantra that we should be the most expensive on the market for our sector. We never want to be the cheapest. And if you're the least expensive, and if you're in the middle, it confuses people. I think you actually probably want to be either the least expensive or the most expensive. If you're in the middle, it confuses people. And, but, over the years, we've tried the typical, well, let's try a little promotion or a little discount. And you know what we found? Didn't make any difference. People want us, they come and buy and they'll pay full price. If we're not a good fit, they don't. So make sure you're communicating so you're getting the right people coming in, and they'll pay top dollar for you.
Everybody wants to solve a problem. I don't care if you're buying a t-shirt, like, I'm solving the problem if I'm not representing that band at the concert, right? So I want to represent the band when I go out to the mall. So I buy their t-shirt.
Exactly.
I had such a great time. I'm just saying, any product, we're just trying to solve a problem. So your message has to be that, right? It has to go, oh yeah, that might work. That might work for me. So So here's the thing. All right. So we got people in our store that'll sell for us. We got customers coming in the door that'll buy from us, but maybe we need money. Maybe we need a relationship with the bank. And that's a whole different animal, because they're not going to buy into the emotional aspect. Partly they will, but mostly they won't. So the pitch to them is different. You change.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Very different. I know we're getting to investors next, and it's very different. And you look at what the outcome of the bank, what they're looking for. They don't care if you grow 50 times over. What they care about is that you can pay back their loan. So they're looking for a very, like, a sure bet. But they also want you to take money and use it. Like, for example, you can say, if you go to a bank, you're going to have probably a harder time getting a line of credit if you have a bunch of money in your account than a loan, because a loan's going to make the money.
Mhm.
Line of credit isn't, unless you somehow dip into it, but they have to keep it sort of reserved, right? So they're looking at they want you to take out credit. They want, their goal is to make money off of you, but as secure as possible, as reliable as possible. So it's a weird thing with banks. The way I picture it, and bankers might curse me or whatever, but the way I picture it is banks would like to give you money when you don't need it, but they sure as hell want you to use it because they want you to have to pay it back and make those payments.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and you got to remember, I'm 15 years in the banking industry. I've taught at the graduate school of banking.
Yep.
I've taught almost 20,000 bankers how to work with small businesses. So
Yep.
I'm like going, you got to remember, the only way a bank makes money is to give you money, is to lend it to you. They don't make it on your deposits and your bank accounts. That's why I give you a free toaster, right?
I never got a toaster.
Part of that is that they want you to have money in the bank, not just you, because there's regulations. They can lend like $12 out for every dollar they have in deposit, right? So think about that. If they have $100, they can $12 plus is $1,200, right? They can lend $1,200. So, but that's how they make money, is on the loan, the interest, the fees.
Mm-hmm.
But they're looking at what they call the 5 C's of credit. But what it boils down to is your ability to pay, right? And you right, your character, right? It's two things. Do you have the will to pay?
Yeah.
And can you pay? Right? Do you have the propensity to pay? Right? So think about it. They look at it from 2 angles. So they're looking at you as a person, and they're kind of buying into you. And then secondly, they're looking at, can the business actually afford this? And again, that's my whole series of books talks about how to do that, rather than walk into the bank. And I've seen this 1,000 times. People walk into the bank, says, "Hey, Mr. Banker, I need a loan." And they go, "No problem. How much do you need?" And you know what the business owner says? "I don't know. How much you give me?"
Yeah.
That's the first thing you do to tell a banker you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know your business, right? And that's my whole book is DUMB, don't understand my business. But it's one of those things about how do you tell your story, because you now have an advocate. That person that you're talking to at the bank is your advocate inside a loan committee, saying we should give this guy a loan for these reasons.
Yeah.
If you walk in, you're pitching, not necessarily, you got to tell them still the same 30-second pitch that you tell everybody else, but then you have to go deeper. You have to know something about your numbers, right? When we go to that, and when we're talking about numbers, we're talking about your cash conversion cycle. How fast does money come into your company, and how well are you using it? And what I'm talking about there is that every company has a financial gap. And the financial gap is the amount of time where you don't have enough money. You're waiting for money to come in while you're still paying all your bills. You're paying your employees, paying all that. And if your business feels clunky, if it feels like it's just kind of jerking, it doesn't work right, well, that's because the gap's too large and the amount of money coming in takes too long, right?
Yeah.
To be really successful. I mean, and I've got a whole story about like the perfect push-up, right? How he went from 0 to 60 million in sales and almost lost the company because of the timing of money coming in, right? It's all about the forecasting of cash coming in. And you know all about that. You wrote Pandemic Cash Flow, for crying out.
So, we look at this stuff every day. Get it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm saying is they want to, if you can talk about those numbers, hey, and here's a simple sentence, right? If you have inventory, it would sound like this. Hey, I have X number of days of inventory on the shelf. I'm collecting from my customers in this many days, and I'm paying in this many days.
Yeah.
That gives me a gap of blah. Based on that, I need X dollars. And there's a formula that you use to do that. right? And the formula to come up with your financial gap days is inventory plus AR minus AP, right? So if you know things about, so the amount of days it sits on the inventory or shelf, the amount of days you're waiting for payment from a customer, and the amount of days you're paying in, that creates a formula. They're going to go behind your back and go do it anyway. Wouldn't it be cool if you could do it up front? They kind of know about it in advance.
Yeah. I got to tell you a little story because you've talked with, what did you say, 20,000 bankers, and I think I wish I would have talked with one of your 20,000 trained bankers. Because I got to tell a story about banking, and I don't know how this relates to pitch, but I remember back in my agency days, we had grown really quite quickly, and our revenue had gone up quite a bit, and so we were trying to be, good business people. Good, we went and met with our bank and sat down with them, and I don't even know if this made sense at the time, but we said we got our revenue's gone way up. We got some good cash in the bank, but I would like a larger line of credit because we're doing bigger and bigger contracts. And now the invoices that you just talked about that are sometimes paid late are getting into the 5-figure, 6-figure. They're getting way bigger. So I think we should have a larger line of credit because to help deal with some of the fluctuations. And looking back at it now, I'm like, that makes sense because they would make money off of us because every once in a while we probably would dip in, right? And they offer the banker booked a meeting with us to come back in the next, I don't know, week or whatever. I can't remember anymore. And she offered us a loan. And I was flabbergasted. Like, I explained our entire situation to this person. She offered us a loan already approved, again, because we didn't need the money. They're going to give us money. So this is part of my experience with the banker. Offered us a loan when we don't even need money. Like we had cash, we had lots of cash in the bank and we were growing fast. And I walked out and I phoned another guy I knew in the bank and I said, find me a banker today or we're leaving. And they did. They're not supposed to do that, but they found me another banker that knew business. I was so flabbergasted. So that's it has not much to do with pitching, but it's tainted my view a little bit.
Well, you got to remember that most loan officers are salesmen, right? And they have a production quota, just like, maybe your salespeople do. Yeah. When it seems like a service, really what they're doing is selling you a loan because that's how banks make money.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's not how you sell. That was exactly, she was not telling us about the value or the competitive advantage. It's like, no, just tried to deliver something to us that we did not need. It's like I went in to buy a truck for my business and they tried to sell me a motorboat.
Hey, that actually happened to me with a bank. And it's a big national bank. I had one vehicle on the balance sheet. One.
Yeah.
Why would you offer me fleet leasing? The only vehicle I had was mine. My vehicle was the only one on the balance sheet. Yeah. That's somebody that just doesn't understand what's going on in your business. So, but what the purpose I'm trying to say is you have to go in there and talk their language, right? Because it makes it easier for them to not only advise you, and there's some lender liability laws in there as well, which means sometimes they can't tell you things, specifically, but they don't have to offer you terrible advice as well. I mean, that goes to a totally different issue, but I think it could be a topic one of these days is how do you pick a good banker, a good lawyer, a good accountant, because they can do so much for you. So easy. Hey, what's funny is I ever told you about the survey I do when I do business owner seminars? Because I always say that there's 3 people that used to be on the pedestal with the business owner, right? You had a banker, an attorney, an accountant. Just what you talked about. Yeah. What happened after 2008 is that bankers fell off the pedestal, right? People don't think of them as highly anymore as they used to. Yeah. So I put a survey together, like going, who do you go to for advice? Banker, accountant, legal, whatever. Where bankers fall in now? Still in the top 10, not in the top 3, still in the top 10 in my survey, 7th behind other. Like people would rather go to the bar and say, "Hey Joe, let me tell you about my business."
that makes it speaks to me. I get it. Yeah.
That's funny. All right. So you are in a critical position right now with your company. So this is really interesting. We talk about that fourth group, that investors, right? Mm-hmm. Whether private investors, angels, VCs, private equity. The pitch there is different because they are risking money, where the bank's trying not to risk money, and investors want to take some risk. So you have to pitch the future to them, right?
Yes.
You gotta pitch the future. What is it that you're going to do with my money?
Right? Yeah, and pitch you're pitching the vision. You're pitching because they want to be part of something big. They're not loaning you money. They want to make multiples back, and they want to invest in something that has a potential to be massive, right? And we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have the same belief. But how do you communicate that belief, that inner belief that you have, and there's sort of the mechanic side in a way of, this is like what we do and how we're doing it and how we're going to get it and how we're going to grow it. But here's where we want to go. It's this top of the mountain. That's where we want to be.
You can't just be the best deli in San Antonio, right? You've got to be the best deli in the world or in the East Coast, right? You got to be a Jersey Mike's. You got to be you've got to figure out a way. What's the story you're going to tell them that moves a needle, and not a local needle? It's a global needle.
Yeah. I'm still like, I kind of want to try that deli. Best deli in San Antonio. Really?
It's about dinner time. I'm hungry too.
You kind of get me there with the best deli. That sounds terrific. You can tell it's getting your dinner time here. No, it's a different, it's just painting a different picture, and it's more, the bank wants to hear how you're gonna operate, and that you're a good operator in a lot of ways. And an investment side, they want to really see your mission and your vision, which goes back a little bit to almost how you're engaging your staff. But they want to see, like, how are you trying to change the world? Then they want to say, yeah, but can you actually do it? Can you actually deliver it? Do you have the team to do it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, because here's it's almost like a mutation of the two. Here's the vision. We're going to do this massive thing, and here's how we're doing it, and here's the proof, because we've been doing it.
Yeah. And here's the people that can do the next step. Right? Yes. We already have them on staff. We already have part of it. We talked about this before a long time ago, but because I've been in software so long now, there was two key metrics that kept coming up. One was user count. The other was the cost of acquisition for that user. And I always point to that as kind of a guiding light, which is you have to tell that story first. All the other stuff you just talked about was okay, but it's actually going to, put you over the edge. But you want to see user count going up, cost of acquiring the user to come down. When you do that, you're starting to talk about how you can scale, because what they want to know is, if I give you $50, does that buy a user? Right. Yeah. And then there's also a lifetime value of the user or whatever it is. But that same metric can be applied to any business, right? I don't care if you are the deli, which is, I got so much foot traffic, or I got so many users coming in the door. And this is what it costs me in advertising or being open, or whatever it is that you use as a metric. Number of customers going up, and the number of or the cost of acquiring that customer coming down. That is a golden opportunity right there.
Yes. I think every business, though, is going to have its key metrics that they're going to really care about. And it can differ very much from business to business. And one of the reasons I'll say that is because literally right now, I was actually been encouraged by an investor I was talking with the other day. It's when we raise that next round, we'll be able to put sort of more money into our marketing. We'll be able to raise our what will happen is the cost of acquisition will go up.
Yeah.
But it's because our cost of acquisition now is really low. Like, it is it is really a night, like they look at the metric and go, oh shit, that is really good. Yes, but we have room to make our cost of acquisition go up. But what it means is we can rapidly accelerate, like you said, the user count. So there's the comfortable space in there where the numbers all line up. And then you're kind of going, okay, yeah, now we've because there's so many. There's that lifetime value, there's a churn rate, there's so many. And I think with each business, there's going to be that metric that really, probably 2 or 3 metrics that really sing and are going to make a difference. Because is it a volume play? Is it you need 1 million, 10 million, 500 million users, sort of, but now you can monetize it, or can you do more premium pricing and do like, there's different models there. So I think you have to figure out what the magic is for your business and what they want to buy into.
Well, and that's just, I think you hit the nail on the head, which is it's a mathematical formula, which is I talk to so many people and X number actually look at it and X number then buy. And when they buy, we get X number of dollars. Mm-hmm. Well, when you can identify that, when you can, then an investor will say, okay, well, that means if I give you $1 million, I should get 10 million back, or whatever your math comes out to be. Yes. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the rationalization to invest more money, and they want to do most of it in growth, most of it in scale.
Yes. Yeah. And again, different stages of companies. So if you're getting, money, which we bootstrapped initially, but if you're getting money right at the start, you don't have any numbers. So you're painting a picture, you're painting a dream, right? The further down the road you go, and it's like later and later rounds, the numbers become more and more important. And I remember a friend of mine, him showing me his deck for his Series A versus his, I think it was a seed round or something like that. And they've since exited. And what was really interesting was the seed round, or the early round one, was a gorgeous deck, and it was very aspirational, and it was about the opportunity in the market. And then his Series A one was like, just looked like it was like 30 pages of awful graphs, like just graphs everywhere. but it was because now we got the data, we can show you everything, every little tiny tidbit. And so it also depends a little bit on the stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So here's what I think I learned today. When you're pitching employees, first of all, you got to pitch everybody, right?
Yeah.
First of all, your support to start the business all the way through getting funding. And then you got to pitch the exit. We didn't even talk about that today, was pitching the person going to buy your company or otherwise. But let's talk about the things I think I learned today were, for employees, you want to pitch the vision. You want to pitch that promise, right? What are we trying to do? For customers, I want to pitch the why you should buy it from me, right? You can get it anywhere, but why me? With a banker, I have to be able to pitch, the actual health of my business through the eyes of the financials, right? And then with investors, I got to pitch the delivery or the promise of a future investment, a future return, right? Yeah. That's kind of what I thought we kind of moved around. I mean, you get something different?
No, I think you're like right on the mark. I thought they were really interesting to help wrap even my mind around the way that you adjust your pitch. Like you just kind of do it intuitively, but it's good to actually sort of have it almost planned out and understand how you adapt your pitch. And then the other thing is, it's like the ABP rule, always be pitching, which is very similar to the ABC, always be closing. And in Alberta, the ABC rule was anybody but Calgary, because I'm from Edmonton and there's a Battle of Alberta. So any of you guys from Alberta know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, man. Hey, if you haven't seen us on YouTube, go see us. If you haven't been to the website, go to mikeandblaine.com. And dude,
we have 26 people listening on Wisdom right now, and I bet they can barely hear me. So tell us, you can contact it like on YouTube or so, or on the website. I think you probably contact us. Tell us if you can even hear me.
Everybody on Wisdom has already figured this out. We can figure this out. They've already figured it out. I listen to them all the time. They're awesome. They're fantastic. Yeah. Why? What are we doing wrong? We're doing something wrong.
I will tell you what we were doing. It's the triple P rule, that going back to the piss poor planning, because we just did this live and just we figured we could figure it out on the fly. So we may have to, after this, maybe we'll pop on for a short audio test or something and see if anyone wants to listen to us do an audio test.
Got it. All right. Hey, you've been listening to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. And I tell you what, if you want business, beer and bullshit, this is the place to get it. So thanks for listening, and thanks Wisdom, man. This is a great thing for us.
This is a really cool tool. We'll get it sorted out, guys. We'll figure it out, but we're pretty smart guys. But anyway, episode 30, wrapping it up.